Welcome back to Razmafzar TV. Today I'm going to have an interview with Arya. Hi, Arya. Welcome to our channel.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Okay, Arya, could you please just pronounce your first name, especially your last name for our members here?
Okay, my name is Arya Khadjeheian. If it's easier, we like to Americanize it, say Khadjeheian. I live in Houston, Texas, in the United States of America. And I'm a new addition to Razmafzar. I've been wanting to join for many years now, and finally I have the opportunity. Very good.
Oh, okay, Arya. Um, Let me just, before we go to how you come or you got to know Razmafzar, tell us a bit about yourself. Who is Arya?
Okay, so as I mentioned, I live in Houston, Texas. I'm interested in martial arts, history. I love everything Iran related. So history, culture, everything about it, especially its martial history. And I have experience with different martial arts. Those are two of my main passions: history, martial arts. I have many others. For education, I went ahead. I majored in religions. I minored in anthropology. My first field that I would have gotten into was history. If it had been available, I would have done so. I do my own researches already. That's my true passion. I read so much about Iran already. So for me, Razmafzar has been like it's an interesting opportunity. This is very unique to be able to do two together. You know, one of the things I've always liked is the idea of being, a living historian, as they call it, where you can actually dress up, try and practice history by putting yourself in the shoes of the people that lived in the past. So this is almost like doing that for me. It really appeals to my interests. And
Which university, which college did you go to?
I went to the University of Houston for my bachelor's. Before that, I got my associates at the Houston Community College system.
Yes. So. And you have a bachelor degree from University of Houston then? Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And which area of history did you specialize in? Was it a general history or did you have a specialization in that?
I did not study history so much in university. It would have been my main thing, but I studied on my own.
Excuse me, religious studies you studied. What kind of religions did you concentrate on? My bad.
It was general religious studies for the most part. I do have leanings with studying, for example, Zoroastrianism and Abrahamic religions as well, and they're links together, or potential links, if you wish. Those are my two favorite ones, just for the influences that they've had throughout history, and mainly for that reason. Yes,
we Iranians are all fascinated by Zoroaster, as they call it in English, Zarathustra, as we say it in Persian, and Zoroastrianism. What is fascinating for you in Zoroastrianism?
Actually, I am Zoroastrian. Yes, I guess for me, it's a religion I've studied for many years, and over time I realized that its general tenets, its general philosophy has actually appealed to me. They made a lot of sense, and that, as well as the history, it always really engaged me in it. The simple message when you break it down fundamentally is one of just human decency, which to some extent all religions try to apply, but it's just fundamentally that the one universal, one way or another, is that the human decency, which it does a very good job of emphasizing and explaining. And a lot of people are unfamiliar with it, but it's very also interesting to see how much influence it would have had on Abrahamic religion. I know for some people that becomes controversial and whatnot, but it's generally accepted that there's at least, maybe some influences. And then that's an interesting thing to look into too, just when you read the history of it, throughout the ages, from antiquity to the modern.
I mean, ignoring the math, in my opinion, as a scholar, I'm not a religious scholar, but I think I have published enough in history. I can talk about, weapon history, but very much into history as well.
Yeah.
Ignoring the immense and big effect of Zoroastrianism on Abrahamic religion. I don't even know who can ignore that. This is massive influence by Zoroastrianism. There is no way to ignore that. Even in today's Iran, if you go to Shiite philosophy, is massively influenced by Zoroastrianism. Massively. The transfer of many ideas of Zoroastrianism in Shiite philosophy and thought or also lots of ideas of Zoroastrianism, which were taken not only in proper Iran, but also later on in Mughal India and many neighboring countries. That's a fact which cannot be ignored or denied, right?
Yeah.
And everyone who is from the region knows that. Sadly, I need to say it openly here now in this forum. Sadly, sometimes I put it this way: sometimes people in the West have their own interpretations, but I always say, as much as I love Japan and I grew up with Japanese culture because of Kyokushin karate next to wrestling. For example, I grew up in a way in Kyokushin that Japan for us was next to Iran, a country wow. And you can imagine that I don't speak Japanese, but the affiliation I have to Japan is interesting because I grew up as a kid in Kyokushin, which is very Japan oriented, right? Different flags of Japan. I don't want to go into that, but I just want to say that if you go and try to, go in that direction and try to understand and see that how much if I want to do study on Japan, any study, I better go and work with Japanese scholars. That's the way I do. Things I learned about from Kyokushin circles, Japanese fighters and instructors, there is something different I could have never, ever learned from Iranian Kyokushin instructors, from European Kyokushin or American, because this motherland of it is there. But so the same applies to Iran. If they want to learn about Zoroastrianism, if they want to learn about the effects of that, they need to come to the motherland. They need to cooperate with people there, not to sit somewhere and then pass some judgments, in my opinion, about that. You don't need to answer this question, Arya, but you were born Zoroastrian. Am I correct?
No, I was not actually. I converted personally on my own, just for my own conviction, actually. I was raised Roman Catholic. My mother was of that religion. And still, I mean, I still go to church with her whenever Sunday comes up, and but my conviction has changed. Now, for those who don't know, my mother's Mexican American, my father's Iranian, so I have an interesting mix there. But
okay,
yeah.
Yes. Okay. Very, very, very interesting. So I'm sure you also read a lot about Savaran and also the heavy cavalry of Sasanians then, right? Yeah, of course.
I have a lot. They're very interesting. Actually, I remember Dr. Keva Farrok's book when it came out, Sasanian Elite Cavalry. I actually have a copy of that one. I was so enthusiastic. Back in high school, I ordered it from eBay. I read that, and I've read many others. I have like a whole collection of books just dedicated to Iran, but especially the martial history.
Yes. I have been, as I mentioned it the last time to you, I have been cooperating and writing with Dr. Farrokh a lot for years, right? He has made a tremendous contribution to the military history of Iran, Dr. Farrokh, right? Really tremendous. It's unbelievable. Excellent, Arya. So just let's go back and to your experience in martial arts. What kind of martial arts have you been practicing?
Okay. The main martial art, the first one I ever got into was Taekwondo, and I was very fortunate to have a very good school. It was not like Taekwondo sometimes gets bad rep because it's so popular. There's a lot of schools that aren't really qualified. They call them McDojos or McDojang for the Korean way of saying it. But my school was actually pretty good. It was practical. They taught us how to do our techniques properly. They taught us a bit of self-defense, elbows, and so I was very fortunate there. I kept up with that for many years, and I still practice on my own now. The only reason that I didn't really leave it moved a little bit further away, so it's not as convenient to train with the same master anymore. But I trained with him at least until 2018, and I may consider going back, just at least for a period, because it was a very good thing. It was a good workout. It was a good community environment, and I've also practiced Kendo, or I've sampled Kendo. I've sampled Hapkido with this the same organization as the Taekwondo. It's Team Universal Martial Arts that they offer Taekwondo, Hapkido, and boxing. Hapkido I kept up until the yellow belt, just when I was in high school. And the reason for that, it was a good one, but because they're from the same organization, the classes are sometimes back to back. It was taking a lot of time. And I still had my studies to go to. I was thinking about college, and it got difficult to, continue with that one. And Taekwondo was just simply the one. Not only was I more proficient with, but it was honestly a better workout the way it was just done. So that's what I stuck with. Now, as far as Kendo, I did that in college, University of Houston, just for was it a year's time? Probably so. And that was an interesting experience. That was my first time doing a full-blown weapons martial art. In Taekwondo, we got to practice a little bit with nunchucks, but this one was just the first time I got to work with a sword style. For those who don't know, Kendo is a way of the sword, and it's basically a watered-down form of Kenjutsu in a way. It's a sport form, and that was very fun. I very much enjoyed that too. But that was just offered by the university, so I was fortunate there. So those are the three arts that I'm proficient with. But I've studied many others, though. Just I've read books on them, Kyokushin karate, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and styles from all over the world. They've always fascinated me, including native Iranian martial arts, Varzeshi, Palevani. That's been one that I was always interested in for so long. I always wanted to try and engage. If they had any here, I would have done so. But they don't.
What is your ranking in the Taekwondo?
I'm a second dan black belt in that.
Oh, second dan black belt. Okay. There are some cities in Los Angeles, if I'm not mistaken. There is a Zurkhane in Los Angeles, if I remember it correctly.
Oh, really? Good.
Yeah, I think so. If I remember it correctly. Last time I was in Los Angeles. I don't know. Maybe I mixed it up, but I think there is. But in Houston, there is none, right?
No, I wish.
Okay.
No.
Mm-hmm. Okay. When was the first time you heard of Razmafzar?
I would have first heard it, I believe it was back in the early 2010s, and it would have just been online, just searching through, because as I mentioned, I study all kinds of martial arts and history. And this was just, if I'm not mistaken, it was through YouTube that I first caught word of it, that I was just searching through videos, and I saw people training and with sword and armor. And it was something that I had to investigate further, because I'm like, okay, is this for real? It's not like something you would expect, for someone to reconstruct an old system. And when I realized it was, when I looked into the credentials behind it, I was impressed, and I kept it up. I showed it to to all my cousins, so my whole family, basically, just to try and get them interested and whatnot. And but yeah, I've really got into it. I've watched it. I've learned a lot, actually, from watching your YouTube channel, and even from your Facebook, just reading things that you've had there. So
okay,
that's how I got introduced to it, though. Yeah.
Okay, which weapon in Razmafzar is the most interesting for you?
It's hard to say. They're all very interesting, and obviously for their own ways. I'm interested in. I'm interested in all of them. Right now, I have a shamshir, and I do have a sipar, and I do have also tools that I can use to use as a sipar as well. So that's what I've been trying to practice, is just from watching the videos, just from seeing the curriculum that you've sent so far. And but honestly, I enjoy all of it. Archery has always fascinated me. If I would have to buy a bow, obviously, to be able to practice that. I'd have to buy the arrows, and I'd need a safe place to practice. There is a place nearby, but I believe that you require membership there, so I would have to figure out how all that works. Otherwise, yeah. But yeah, shamshir is that's always been a fascinating. I just like how elegant it looks, like when you use it, whether it's cutting, whether it's for sparring. All the things that you can do, and I know it comes in different forms, but like just a generic form with a curve to it, that's made a real impression on me, definitely.
Oh, okay.
And
what are your goals now? Now you're on Razmafzar team. What are your goals in Razmafzar? What do you want to do?
I think that Razmafzar will give me a good outlet. It's not only a way to train myself and push myself in martial art, but it's also a way to connect with part of my heritage, and a way to just learn overall. As I mentioned, I love studying all aspects of history and martial tradition, especially from Iran. And this is what I think it's going to give me, is a good experience with all of that, and much more than I would otherwise, just from reading books is one thing, but it's another when you can actually practice techniques. Like it's one thing to know, okay, they had swords and people use them in battle. It's another thing you actually practice it. You see, this is how they used it. These are their mentality. This is why. It's a very different thing. It gives context for the culture, I think, and
Yeah,
that's something that
absolutely.
very much appeals. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think also, Erasmus, so what I'm also interested in, or what we are interested in, to see the limitations human body has. Because if you don't, for example, put on an armor, you see how heavy it is, that you get dehydrated, you have problems, no matter how much you train. But then you start to read, I mean, you read an historical text and account, then immediately you understand the hyperbole and exaggerations there, so that the human body cannot be in a, for example, heavy armor the whole day. Because if you don't drink something, right, you're going to die. You don't need even to fight. You're going to, to sweat so much, and then you're going to have a heart attack or whatever, right? So these are important, especially for people who write about history. That's why each time I go in these fields, my colleagues at university, when they write about military history, last time I was invited to a conference, right? And I told my academic conference, I told them, I said, guys, not everyone needs to practice martial arts or historical martial arts, but you need to cooperate, because then there are some assumptions, and these assumptions might be completely wrong. Why? Because you don't practice that. It is like, for example, I don't play a musical instrument. Well, I've never played any, even when I was at school, unfortunately. But now I start to write about, for example, flute, or I start to write about, I don't know, whatever, right? Guitar. But then my knowledge is very limited because I don't practice that. So if I want to write about classification of guitar and I don't play the guitar, that's possible. But I need to talk to a guitar player. I need to listen and sit next to him or her, see how she plays, how he plays, to get an idea about a guitar and the strings, how it moves. Otherwise, just sit down and write down, read books. It gives me a distorted view and classification of guitar. But same applies in military history, and I told my colleagues. Otherwise, you're going to have completely the wrong impression. Like those exaggerations, they were so well trained. For example, the guy went, I think last time we talked about it, a unit of 20, well-armed man, like killed thousands of enemy soldiers. This is impossible. I don't care how well trained they are. Physically, it's impossible. Right. So these type of things give you a perspective on being a very pragmatic and practical researcher, and not to fall prey to those claims, which in history, they're full of them, right? They're
Oh,
full
yes.
of them, right? Full of them, especially in military history, because part of any war, the most important part of any war, ancient warfare, modern warfare, is propaganda. War
I agree.
starts with propaganda, ends with propaganda. Always, always. So propaganda is part and parcel of any war. Back then was the same case, was the case, today is the same, right? You never know,
Yes.
right? Like I remembered, okay, I don't want to say which war, but just one war, both sides claimed, today we shot 10 airplanes, jet fighters. And they kept saying it like for 1 year. But if you calculate how many jet fighters did each army have, they didn't have so many fighters. You understand
Yes.
what I mean? What kind of claims, right? Or we destroyed so many tanks. They're all just exaggerations and war propaganda to boost the morale of their own soldiers. I personally, they say it's part and parcel of warfare. But as researcher, we need to be extremely careful. So that's which gives you a perspective. Um, are you also interested in archery?
I am interested. Certainly, if I'm able for example, that place that's nearby, if I'm able to join there, then absolutely. Because otherwise, the only place I would have is maybe my backyard, which is possible. I'd have to look, see if the local laws are okay with that.
Yeah,
They
yeah, of
probably would
course.
be. I don't know what
Yeah.
because I don't want someone looking inside being like, oh, what's going on back there, but otherwise, yes, absolutely, I am. Archery has always interested me. I mean, I first got to try it when I was in middle school. I haven't really been able to do so since, but I remember how fun it was, and I know what a big part it plays in Iranian military history too, especially for the time period in question. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Big part. Archery is a big part of Razmafzar system. A very, very, as you can see also in the videos, a big part of Razmafzar system. So if someone practices Iranian martial arts and does not know how to do archery, well, this is not a true Iranian martial art. Of course, you need to practice very good archery, that for sure. Okay, Arya, do you have any other question at this moment?
At the moment, nothing comes to mind. Nothing that I can think of. Sorry,
okay. Okay, then thank you very much, and I wish you a nice day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this interview. This was a pleasure, honestly.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.